Hello and welcome to Super Respectable. My name is Toshi Rahman, and I'm actually reporting from a new place today, Vancouver, Canada. And
Wow.
usually David and I are within the same time zones, but I'm with my colleague David Lewis from the Netherlands, who is actually 9 hours ahead of me. So you're
It's hard to
Tuesday night,
fathom.
right? It's
Welcome
weird.
back to Canada.
Thanks so much.
And we have a third host in the show this week. It's for the YouTube viewers and listeners. It's a
That's
cat.
true. That's true. This is I should have not pointed it. I should have been like try to find the cat. This is Charlie. Charlie is he's not really sleeping. I maybe jet lagged for cats and stuff.
Mm,
But my wife said he slept through the night, but maybe he's just energetic now. That's maybe she's right. Maybe I'm wrong. Then maybe he did
starting
sleep,
to
but
yawn.
he's starting to yawn. He'll sleep up there from time to time. But how are you, Dave? How's life? How's
Um, yeah, life is okay. It's Groundhog Day once again,
yeah?
but as we discussed before we started recording, they just announced another lockdown here, so it's pretty sad, especially during the Christmas period. It makes everything a bit more
Oh my
depressing,
goodness. Yeah.
and the fact that it's dark and cold and kind of miserable.
Oh.
So yeah, 5 weeks of this here.
And so you were telling me that the rule is that it's gathering of two people, pretty much. That's just like you and your partner or someone like that. But during the holidays, it can go up to three people, right? Is that
Three people.
so?
Um,
Do you
yeah,
know who your lucky number three will be? Who you will choose, or will you just surpass, or will you just kind of ignore that rule and have more, or will you adhere to it? What's the penalty? Tell us your thoughts and
I
opinions.
follow all rules at all times, just
Good for
so
you.
the Dutch
Good for
government,
you.
who's listening, knows. Yeah. Um, no, I think we'll surprise people with our third guest.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe you can get them on the podcast. Maybe they can while they're at your house, 2 for 1.
No, I think in all honesty, it'll be a very quiet Christmas here. Christmas
Yeah.
Day, probably just doing lots of FaceTime and Zoom and Skype and whatever video calls with family in different parts of the world, and maybe a get together on Christmas Eve with another couple. But yeah, it's just a very unique and different time to celebrate Christmas. So that's the way
It's
it'll be this year.
I figure it's been this way for the entire year. You might as well finish it out. It's not like it was going to be like a big surprise 3 weeks before the end of the year that it was going to be like everything's like fixed. You know what I mean? I feel this is expected, right? So like it's I didn't like I don't celebrate Christmas, but of course it's the holiday season, and it's gathering with family and friends for both Christmas and New Year's. But like there was no way that we were going to be having like Christmas or New Year's or a countdown in Times Square or anything like that. You know the way things are looking, but
Well, it's interesting here in the Netherlands for New Year's. It's really quite the scene. People are advised to stay at home because um, they shoot fireworks off everywhere, nonstop, all
really.
throughout the night, all throughout the day. Um, and this year, they've put in a firework ban,
Oh,
and
wow.
they were talking about telling people just to not do any celebrations for New Year's, have a curfew,
Yeah.
because it really gets out of hand here. People like shoot their own fireworks. There's no like central Times Square thing here. People just buy their
Uh,
own. They buy huge amounts of it and they shoot it off everywhere. It's a super densely populated country, so it's so dangerous. They get all these people blowing off their fingers and hitting each other in the eyes with burning this,
yeah,
smashing
yeah.
windows, because everyone's kind of had too much to drink and they're lighting
Hooligans.
things on fire that explode. So it's a bad combination.
What's the like? So it's easy buying fireworks or firecrackers, or is it easily accessible in the Netherlands? It's legal, or what's the? You have to go to a
Normally,
certain.
yes, but this year they made it illegal. I guess they've had to force the shops to close down, and I think some people are trying to clandestinely order online or go to Germany or Belgium and desperately stockpiling.
Were you because I think what is it about fireworks and firecrackers that's so appealing? Because I used to love it too. Even now, when I buy something and I light it, there's like a sense of excitement for it. I don't actively do it, but when I was a kid, oh my gosh! Like I remember firecrackers were illegal where I live, but fireworks were okay. But like Halloween, we used to kind of go get stuff, and well, my mom used to send me. So our neighbors, there was a kid my age. He was my best friend growing up. Now my best friend's you, Dave.
Thank you.
For the purposes of this podcast, I'm just messing with you. But he moved to the States, so he moved to Oregon when I was like 11. So my mom used to like say, oh no, less than that. My mom used to send my mom and dad used to send me down every summer to go spend a week with them. And in America, firecrackers are legal, or they used to be
Illegal.
illegal. Well, at least the state he was in. And I used to go down on the weekend of the 4th of July. So my mom used to give me money to buy whatever I wanted, like a gift or thing. I used to always spend on fireworks and firecrackers, and it was amazing. And my friend lived on a farm, so like lots of land. So we used to buy this stuff and light this stuff on fire, and just so much
Amazing.
fun, like pyro. But yeah, like that yours sounds dangerous on a day of drunkenness and of the new year. It sounds like it's probably not the best of things to be doing.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm sure people will do their own thing as they always do in this country.
And what about the vaccine in the Netherlands? What's the talk about that? Did the Netherlands buy vaccines? Are they implementing it? Are they not following it? What's the 411 on that?
The main vaccine people are taking here is the typical marijuana and gin to try and inoculate themselves.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's a slight delay. It's not as quick as some other countries, but I think by mid-January they'll start rolling out the vaccine. But to like really high priority people, they don't have a huge amount ordered. So I really think it's going to be another, I don't know, 6 months until it's really free and clear.
Inoculation. What's I don't know if we talked about this, but do you have thoughts on the vaccines? Either of the I think there's 3 or 4 of them out. Do you think you'll get it, or are you going to wait it out, or what's the
I'll wait and see what the reaction is and how people respond to the vaccine, and if they start growing a third arm or something, then
there you go.
I won't do it. No, I'm not an anti-vaxxer.
No. Neither am I. But I'm not I'm not this quick. I'm not as accepting as everyone else is. Too. Other people can do it and let me know how it goes, and then I figure you and I and people and like our partners, like we're of that healthy demographic that like usually we have higher immunities. We're not going out like without masks. Like I figure if we isolate, we follow the rules, wear masks, sanitize, then we could be one of the last ones to get the vaccine if it's effective, right? Like but at the same time, I don't feel like I'm not as optimistic as the whole world or many people are when they're buying like, countries are buying this in stock, right? So who knows what's going to happen in a couple months, if it's effective or not. It's been very quickly rushed out, but it's debatable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very impressive with these scientists. I would like to read up on some of the science behind it. I don't really understand how it works, but it'd be good to know.
Yeah.
And learn about it. Do you know what's going on in Canada with it?
Canada, from the last time I read a couple of days back, they have already started implementing, or they will implement this week. I think they bought 20 million. No. They bought a bunch, like in the millions or something. I think healthcare workers, the elderly, people who are at high risk are first to get it. The goal is that by September, I think next year, they want to get all 38 million people vaccinated. So I mean, I'm assuming this is optional. I'm assuming they can't force you to take the vaccine. So, yeah, I'm okay. I mean, I'm in quarantine now, so I'm okay for 2 weeks. I had a test, which I'll talk about, just 2 days ago, or take the time difference 3 days ago, and I was there. I was a little. Both my wife and you had given me advice. Well, you didn't really directly give me advice, but from your lifestyle, I took it. I was a little OCD in the first couple months of it. I was really like scraping everything down, and then I started relaxing in the last month or two, and so and I didn't get it. So I was more. That's more of a sustainable approach. But I mean, like I wear my mask. I'm not like an anti-mask person. I sanitize when I have to, and I try to like limit spacing, and it seems to have worked for us. And then just keep your immunity healthy. And then, I mean, of course, no one wants this to keep going. I want the world to come back to its regular status quo. But I mean, anything we can do. The horrible thing is, both where you are and I are, it's winter, right? So even if you took COVID away or Corona away, this is the time for flus and fevers and colds. So that's in addition, right? So
what's Vancouver winter like right now? Is it 25 degrees and sunny? And
I'm beach shorts and flip flops. It's horrible. It's horrible here. It's Vancouver and Canada. They're beautiful places, but the weather really isn't great in the wintertime. I mean, yours is worse. Like Ottawa, it's like a foot of snow or something right there, right? So
Otto's extreme. Yeah.
yeah, I don't mind winter and the darkness and the weather. I seem to be okay. I grew up with it, so it's very familiar. But it's very different than other parts of the world where it's sunny all the time, right? So I don't know, what can you do? You can't control that, right? So
Yeah, not yet.
it is what it is. So yeah, it's my week to present, and I thought for my week, I mean, I have to admit, I was traveling, so I didn't get a lot of prep time. But I was hoping ours could be more of a discussion as opposed to a presentation. This one, so I
Yeah, I
wanted
guess
to
that's okay.
thanks. You can think about it more if you want. Uh, Mine's more about the discussion on air travel and like
Mhm.
kind of opinions and experiences and how things can improve. I thankfully, like, one thing my parents really did growing up was we traveled a lot, like both
Mm.
for my dad's work and just for holidays. My parents are very keen on us kind of getting more of a worldly experience. So even since like I was born, I've been on planes and boats and trains and passports and blah blah blah. Like, so I was very familiar with it, and I even got to travel by myself in my mid 20s, and I went to like a bunch of countries, and I felt very comfortable. So I feel very versed in this topic. I know you have lived in many countries around the world. You've traveled as well, both for work and personally. So I feel that you're very well versed. So so I thought we could have an opinion on that. And the reason I'm talking mostly about this topic is because of my travels from Istanbul back to Vancouver of the last 24 hours. And I just told you before I recorded, I think I've had the worst experience ever, minus COVID related too, right? Right. So I'll tell you the problems I had, and then of course discussion. And so my very
Sure.
first problem actually started about a month before I even left, because I booked my flight for 7 a.m. on a Monday morning, and in Turkey, if you're going to Germany, that's the only country, by the way. If you're going to Germany from Turkey, you have to do a COVID test 48 hours in advance, whereas some other countries will give you 72 hours. So technically, I could have done my COVID test on Friday at 7 a.m. or for it to be valid for Monday, but I needed to do it by. I don't even know if it's 7 a.m. when I depart, or if it's the time you land Germany, which would
Mm.
have been 10:30 or whatever. But what happened was, so I had a plan that over the weekend I was just going to go to a hospital or a clinic and get things done. But what happened was 2 weeks before we left, the government put in a curfew on the weekend where we couldn't go out
Oh
anymore, right?
no.
So then I started panicking and I started freaking out, and I thought, okay, what I could do is I could go to the airport on Saturday night, get the test, and come back, because the airport is a 24-hour clinic, right? But one of the problems is if you're out after curfew, you could be stopped by the cops, and you have to prove to them like what you're doing and why you're doing it, and blah blah blah
Mm.
blah blah. And at that point, I had overstayed almost 6 weeks in Istanbul. So
Uh-oh.
if it was the Monday that I was going to the airport, it wouldn't have been a problem, but potentially it could have been a problem if theoretically I'd gone. They would know I overstayed because you can tell on the stamp, right? It says like December 2019 when I enter my last entry. Thankfully, I found a company that would come to our house and do it for us and give us a result within 4 hours, right? So I organized on the Sunday, the day before, for them to come to our house and do a test for myself, my wife, and my dad, who had just come into town, and he was leaving in the next couple of days. So it'd be like a 3-for-1. And the problem is, you can go to the airport and get them done even before your flight, but it takes up to 4 hours to get results. And since my trip was at 7, and I need to check in 2 hours before, I theoretically needed to be there at the airport at 1 and leave my house at 12 at midnight. So that's like 7 hours. That's craziness,
Oh
right?
man.
Okay, so I felt like shit since last Monday, up leading up until my travels, and I told you about it. And I felt like maybe I had COVID, but very mild symptoms. I was still working. I wore masks. I kept distance, but I just did not feel great. It could have been stress and just the move and everything. So thankfully, we did our PCR tests, and we got them, of course, not within 4 hours because nothing's on time. Everything's delayed. So I was like sitting by my phone the whole time. I got them at 6 hours, the 6 hour mark, and we were negative, 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 which is really great. So I got that done. I left my apartment. Have you ever you must have moved and stuff. So like, have you ever left your apartment, and like, do you clean it? Do you not clean it? Like, what do you do? So like, I I don't know. I did my best. I
Mm.
sort of cleaned it. I left furniture, because I couldn't
That's
sell all of it.
nice.
Yeah, is that nice? Like, as a landlord, would you be happy if someone left some furniture for you?
Possibly. Depends on the furniture. I tried to leave things in a
Sorry, that's the alarm.
way that they'll
Yeah,
respect
yeah.
who you were. You don't trash the place. But
So
if I leave a few things behind here and there, meh.
it's not. See, what happened with us is once COVID happened, they used our rental deposit towards rent in March and April. So by the time we left, they had none of our money on hold for us. But that didn't give me the right to be like an asshole and like damage the place and leave. I had a good relationship with them, and I also, like you said, wanted to leave on a good note. And because I was leaving on a Monday morning, Sunday is a day off, so there was no management around, right? So plus the curfew as a minor point. So we had my wife was really great. She was able to sell most of our big furniture, which is great. And so we left the place kind of in good shape, and we left a lot of dishes if anyone wants to use them. They're in good condition. We left a table, we left a mattress, bed sheets. You know, I even messaged them after and I said thank you, but you know, maybe someone who in the building wants it, or et cetera, et cetera. I didn't trash the place, but I didn't clean it. Like I didn't do a head to toe cleaning. I figured
I'm sure you're fine.
I have like a warrant for my arrest in Turkey because of that. So so we get to okay. So keep a note. This guy who's left here, and I have another one. We traveled with two cats, so we bring them to Canada. It's like bringing kids. It's a hassle. Like it's such a crazy thing. So we pack everything in our suit in a car.
Do they need to have a PCR test?
No PCR tests, but they need to get rabies vaccinations a month before departure, as per Canadian rules. If we don't, then we have to do rabies here. But I bet you it's like crazy expensive here versus where I am. And they need to have a health certificate to exit Turkey. So I got all that stuff done. I got them in their cages. The funny thing is, they knew something was up, like because when you get the cages out, they know like something's going on. So they were like not happy at all. They don't like traveling at all, especially air travel is really kind of scary for them. I can imagine they don't really understand what an airplane is. So we get to the airport 5 o'clock in the morning. Surprisingly, a lot of people in the airport, but we go up to our gate. We get them checked in. They check these guys in first. So we check all our luggage in, etc., etc. I go with these cats down to the cargo hold, or not the cargo hold, but the special deliveries unit that some guy takes me. We get them all checked, x-rayed. We get them sent in. And so here's where our first problem arrives. We have to pay a fine because we've overstayed, right?
Oh,
Yeah, 6 weeks only, so not a big deal. We actually anticipated this, so we actually went to the visa office and we said, "Listen, here's our cards. We've overstayed." I tried to get out of it, coming up with an excuse, but the guy was an asshole. He was so rude. He's like, "Your letter doesn't matter," like you know. So he looked at. Here's the thing: there were two Americans next to me, and we were at the counters at the same time. They took their passports and they're like, "It's okay, no problem, just go." They didn't find them. Then they took my passport and my wife's passport, and maybe those guys had only overstayed a shorter time, but we overstayed 6 weeks. I got charged 480 lira for overstaying, which is
like $5.
I wish it was like $60, 60
Okay.
US dollars. And
I
my
know
wife
the liras had some trouble.
yeah, and my wife got charged 80 liras, right? And I was not in a position to argue. I really just was so tired and exhausted from everything. I just wanted to leave. So I said, no problem. And then he goes, you have to go to that counter to pay. They don't take credit card. They don't take anything. They only take lira. I only had US dollars at the time. So I had to go to an exchange place, get it exchanged in the airports for some horrible rate. This is where airports scam you, listeners. The exchanges in airports are so bad.
Yeah, I made that mistake.
So bad. I could have gotten 7.8 for the dollar and they gave me 6.8. I lost an entire dollar per point because of it. But again, I had no option. I paid. I got on it. And then I was so upset. I kept my Turkish residence cards, and then once I got to Germany, I like chucked them. I was like, I don't want this anymore. So we check in. Our cats are okay. We get onto the plane. The plane is relatively empty, and it's only a short flight. We both are able to sleep, which is great. We land in Germany, which is where actually problems happen. So you've flown through Frankfurt Airport?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of an old airport. So it was my first time there. It really wasn't that up to date. It kind of like there was the scaffolding was like falling apart.
Oh, they're doing lots of renovation work there. Yeah.
Renos and stuff. Okay, so this is where like the first problem happened, and I'm somewhat proud and somewhat disappointed about it. I would feel good about myself.
Okay.
So what I had to do is I had to bring all these little little tools in my bag because the cats, they're on a normal cat cage, but you can't like lock it up because they need to check it before you do. So I brought zip ties with me, which is what we do to close the gates on the cat cage front, because so it doesn't open. I wish I could show you a picture, but what it is like you've seen a normal animal cage people travel in. You can lock the front door, but sometimes that comes off, right? Like you know, it's very rare. But the best thing that you can do is zip tie it in, so it's really sturdy. So I brought those, and I brought some scissors with me to cut the ends of the zip tie that would be sticking out, right? Like, you know, zip ties, like you have a huge little part that I didn't want anyone to get hurt
Yeah.
or like get sick, so I'd cut it. So what I did was after I had set my cats in the cargo hold, I put them into my bag and I was like, oh, I'm gonna throw these away, but I totally forgot about it. So we're going through security. So we went through Istanbul security, no problems. Like I had a pair of scissors, like medium scissors, and zip ties, all accidentally in my bag. We go through the Frankfurt security again, and
Oh,
my wife's bag is okay. All the stuff is okay, but my bag gets taken to the side. And the guy goes, "Is this your bag?" You know, or in German, "Is this your bag?" You know, whatever. And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Can I search it?" So he's searching it. Not only does he find, I took my laptops out, but I totally forget we put our phones and my Kindle in there too. So usually that's not a big deal. So he takes it out and he goes, "A phone, phone, Kindle," and then he takes the scissors out and he starts like he's like, "What's this?" and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like it's my cats. I totally forgot." I tried to explain. He's like, "No." He calls over a police officer. So you get this watch a police officer, and this guy is like
oh
22
man,
years old, and he goes, "It's a federal felony to go through a German airport with scissors in it." And I tried to explain to the guy, I'm like, "I'm extremely sorry, but my wife and I had a cat, and I just totally forgot." I tried to prove it, like the cat, blah blah blah. He's like, "We're gonna have to write you up and give you a report." And I said, and I
really?
should have argued a little bit more, but I really didn't. And I said, "You do what you got to do." I was so sad. So so we got everything in. We dropped my wife off at the gate. I went to the police office inside the airport. They took my passport and they wrote me up. Like I think I have a federal felony charge against me in Germany at this point.
Wow, wow.
And so the guy was nice about it, but I was kind of being harsh with him. I just stayed quiet. And it's like a 20-year-old cop who's jacked up on protein powder and like weights and stuff like that. Spiked hair, like the typical like young police officer. I hope I don't. I hope the Germans aren't listening now. So they take my passport, they write it all up, they explain to me that, listen, you've this is the charge, it's negligence for carrying like a unlawful weapon through an airport or something. You just have to sign here, 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 and you can get on your flight. Do you want to call, this is what they asked me. They said, "Do you want to call your embassy?" And I said, "No." They're like, "Do you understand what's happening?" I'm like, "Yes." And they
But
said,
what does it mean? There are consequences, like a fine or?
No fine, no fine. It's just a report.
Oh,
Report. Then they asked, "Do
mm.
you have a statement to make?" And I said no, because I didn't want it. And so then I asked the lady, like, what's going to happen to me? Like, can I travel back to Germany, or like ever, or is there a ban, or do I have a federal thing? I didn't really understand what she was telling me, to be honest. But at that point, I was so exhausted. I was like, I don't need to come back to Germany. I just want to leave,
I'm not
right?
coming back. Yeah.
So I signed everything. They didn't even give me a copy. I asked for a copy. They said no. They just they gave me my passport and I made it to the gate, and my wife was there and we were okay. We were able to board, and then I told her and we kind of like, it was really my mistake. Like I was telling you, one thing I think I have learned is that you have to be really presentable at airports. I think from now on, I had sweatpants on, a cardigan, boots, and my hair was all disheveled, and I had a beard, pretty much this beard with a mask on, and I wasn't smiling or personable at all. I was just really
Mm,
harsh, looking.
mm,
And I should have been much more. I totally admit I should have been much more approachable as a person, and
mm.
like just been able to talk to them down, because I think they would have understood. While the cop was telling me this at the security point, there was a British guy, and his bag had got stopped, but he was let go too, and he looked at me and he said, "This is complete bullshit." Like pretty much like, "This is ridiculous for you," and I said, "Yeah, I know," you know. So like I totally understand stopping people for necessary causes. But this was literally a scissor, and I remember seeing the guy putting it up to his finger because he was measuring it. Right, he's kind of comparing it. I think there's a limit or something like that. But so I have
You can have a short scissor or nail clippers, but not that.
I guess, man. So I could theoretically have a federal criminal offense in Germany. I don't
Wow.
know.
So
Have you ever had
basically, you
problems?
can't go back to Turkey. You can't go back to Germany.
I can't go to Bahrain too. I have a problem there that happened 7 years ago. So
You should have
like,
less stopovers. So only fly direct.
yeah. Have you ever had problems at security with anything? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me.
When I was really young, so we would travel to the UK, where most of our family is, regularly each summer. And one time, I think I must have been, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
We went as a family to this like Western US style village in Wales. So weird.
Oh, yeah.
And you could dress up and take black and white photos, and they'd have like a saloon and stuff. And one of the
Oh,
things that I ended up getting was the little cap gun.
oh, with little red little caps and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it would just like make a snap noise and really harmless. And this
Yeah,
was pre September 11th when like the air travel was pretty relaxed,
yeah,
totally different world. And we packed that in my bags and
yeah,
went from London Heathrow to Montreal,
yeah,
Montreal to Ottawa.
yeah,
And going from London, no problem. So
yeah,
strange. Like they didn't scrutinize it, didn't get stopped. Go across the Atlantic with a gun thing
yeah,
in my bag, and
yeah,
then for the half an hour flight from Montreal to Ottawa,
yeah.
I got stopped, and this was serious. Like they said, you've got a gun in your bag, and they said it's a toy. I don't think it was even out of its package. It said like
Yeah.
there's this thing, and they're like, yeah,
Most because I had a fascination with guns growing up and BB guns, but it probably had like a red or orange tip, right, to indicate that at the top, or like you could tell it's a fake gun, like it's a toy gun, right?
totally. But
Yeah,
I understand the paranoias, um, and so they said, okay, we had a very long discussion. My parents did. I didn't have any negotiating skills at that point. Still don't really have that many. But
yeah,
yeah, they said, okay, fine. What we'll do is we'll pack it up, and the pilot will have it with him,
yeah.
and the
Oh,
pilot will give it to you when you leave the plane.
yeah.
And I said, does that mean I can go in the cockpit and check it out? He's like, yeah. So you could go into the cockpit and check it out. Like, I don't think you're allowed anywhere near the cockpit these days.
Yeah, that's a no-no.
So I could see the gun next to the pilot, and I was watching him with all the controls and stuff. So there was that. Aside from that incident, I can't say that I've had any other major
Yeah,
issues. There was one other story I'll tell quickly.
yeah, yeah,
I've flown a lot from the Schiphol airport, the Amsterdam airport here.
yeah,
And it's funny because people in pre-corona times, tons of people would come through Amsterdam to party, and it's known
yeah,
for the marijuana and all the drugs. And I think I was flying on a Sunday night, and all of the partiers are going back to wherever they're from.
yeah,
And the lady in front of me in security got stopped. Like, it was serious. Like the kind of like your story. They brought all the cops over,
yeah,
and I was curious. I was watching to see
yeah.
what
Of
was
course.
happening. What has she done? Because she looked like a pretty normal person. I was judging like, do you look like a criminal? Nah, you look
Yeah.
normal.
Are you a
What she had
mule?
done?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, she had she just bought some weed and packed it in her bag, and she had it in her carry-on. And
Oh,
I heard the conversation. They're like, "Are you crazy? Why do you think you can bring like weed in your bag?" They said, "Oh, it's legal here." And
yeah.
they're like, "Yeah, but you're leaving here and you're going
To
somewhere else
yeah,
with
yeah,
drugs." And she either was being naive, like deliberately, or was actually a bit stupid.
yeah.
And they're like, "Where are you traveling to?" And then I think she said something like Indonesia, and they're like, "There's yeah,"
Death
and
penalty, right?
they were like, "There's the death penalty there for if you're with drugs,
Oh,
and so we're saving your life here.
yeah,
We're not gonna fine you, charge you, do anything. We're gonna take this away from you,
uh,
and don't be so stupid."
yeah.
I was like, "Wow, this is incredible."
I when I went to Indonesia, when before we landed, they gave us customs forms, and on the bottom in
Mm,
red, in bolded red, it says those importing or trafficking drugs can be fined by the death penalty. And it was the first. I remember it was very memorable. It was the first time I'd gone to any country where that was on the customs form, and I remember that. I remember that there are actually like the Indonesians are very because a lot of people go to Bali and like party it up. The Indonesians are very
there you
serious
go.
about it. There are a lot of Westerners in jail. I don't think they've actually executed anyone yet or anything, but there are a lot of people in jail serving real time for drug use or drug trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
That is craziness. But that's stupid. Like that's also stupid. But I can understand her logic to a degree. You know what I mean? Like if it's legal in the country, at what point is it? Because the Netherlands airport is still technically Netherlands. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I
crazy.
could see the strands of logic there, but it's also kind of crazy. Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, so we board
So
the plane.
you made it out of Frankfurt?
Yeah, we made it out of Frankfurt with a criminal charge on my record. Well, maybe whatever.
Okay.
I semi like I wish I could like redo that conversation with the whole experience and like kind of talk more, be more polite about it. On the other hand, I'm not losing sleep over it either. You know, I just wanted to get home. I was so tired.
Yeah,
But
fair enough.
So we got on our second plane, and I don't know if you've flown Lufthansa before, and I have, and it was a great experience. But this time it really was a piece of shit, like for us. And I don't know if that's because of COVID. I feel like everyone is like super, like airlines and stewardess and hostess, they're super paranoid about COVID. And like, it's not for me to say that you shouldn't be, but I mean, there is a sense of human decency and dignity. We're not cattle. We technically paid to be on a flight. You know what I mean? You didn't pay us
Yeah,
to go on a flight. So like,
yeah.
we had it was so weird. I had one of the best stewards on the plane. He was so nice, and I had one of the worst stewardesses on the same plane who was horrible. I remember asking for an extra piece of bread during meals, and the way she told me that we only have a certain number was so condescending. Like we've counted it out. I'm sorry. You know, at the end, the guy was able to get me another piece, but it's like I wasn't asking for like gold or like your wallet. I was asking for bread. You know what I mean? Because the crap that you gave me was so bad, I couldn't eat it. It was like this buckwheat German bread or whatever, and it was just like
Uh,
it's like cardboard. But it's okay, you know. And I was like, so I didn't say anything. Later on, the internet wasn't working, so I asked the same lady, like, "Is it off?" And she's like, "Oh no, like we've been having problems with it, but you know, you have to pay." And again, the way she said it was like I had assumed that it was free, and I knew. I said, "I will pay, no problem," you know. And then like she was being kind of an ass to these other people who took their masks off just for a second, and she told them like, "Don't let me tell you again to keep your mask on." And I felt
nice.
like it was so mean. And she's like, oh, this is my favorite. So you know, the barf bags or the throw up bags that you get in the thing that
Mm,
are
yeah.
the people in the next row had used it as a garbage near, and like they put everything in it and they gave it to her, and she's like, this is for throw up. We only have a limited number of these. If you use it here, then we have to restock them. And I wanted to tell this bitch, I'm sorry, be like, listen, man, the amount of money we paid is not only for our flight, but it can cover 100 of these bags. So if I want to use 100 of them and throw up in them or crap in them or throw garbage in them, it's not your problem. You know what I mean? And so, like, I totally, throughout the flight, I didn't say anything because I'm a good Canadian and I just kept quiet. And it's not for me to defend other. I mean, I know we want
And you
to
and you're
something.
already at a charge in Germany, so you
I'm
didn't want
already
to get
charged. I
another
didn't want the
felony
plane to
on the
hit like
plane. Yeah.
Iceland or wherever it is. But
Yeah.
like, I don't think that like, I sometimes feel like whenever you travel, they feel that like we should be appreciative to them for like getting us there and stuff. But like, it's a business, like, and I'm a customer and I paid, and it's not only because of that. I feel like there should be a sense of human decency, and whenever we travel, I feel like that decency always declines in all aspects. I don't know. I've For the most part, I find that flights are okay, and for a very small minority of my experiences, flights have been fantastic. But I never feel that like we're respected on airplanes, generally speaking. Unless you pay enough money, which we talked about, and you're up in business class or first class, where they think like you're a king or something like that. But I feel like in economy, you're just like cattle. Like I don't know what your experience is, but
Totally.
yeah, it needs
Yeah.
to change. It's so bad, and like I
What
don't
was it?
know.
On your flight, was there a distancing? Like, did they have space
No.
and empty
Uh,
seats?
Not at all. In our we were in a two-seater, me and my wife next to each other, next to the aisle and the window,
Mm.
so we're okay. But behind us, in front of us, they just packed them in. It was a pretty full flight. I think about 75% full. Whenever when you're boarding, that thing you do, you kind of look around to see if like other people are coming on, because you know that if the gates closed, then you can shift over to like the four-seater and lie down, or the
Yeah,
three-seater.
yeah. You start praying for that space over there. You're
Yeah, yeah.
like, I want that.
Unfortunately, no. So we had to stick it out for about 10 and a half hours in our seats, but we walked around a little. And like, yeah, like I
Was
understand
it
COVID really
Frankfurt to Vancouver?
correct. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it
Frankfurt to
direct?
Vancouver. Yeah.
Mm.
Frankfurt to Vancouver. I don't sleep on planes. You also, right? Have trouble sleeping on planes?
I have trouble unless it's a business class flight. Then I don't have any trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the only reason I would try fly business class. I really don't care about the food or the extra amenities. I just want to put my feet out and sleep. And so
Yeah.
so I watched three movies. I watched some television. Whenever you're going, if you actually pay attention to it, the flight is actually very loud, right? The actual flying, the technicalities of a plane. So like, the headphones they give you are really garbage headphones. So like you're really always having to like push them in to really get a good audio like outcome. But
These are a great investment. The noise canceling headphones,
yeah,
totally worth it for air travel.
excellent. The Bose is it, right? The Boses or the Bose,
Bosies.
Boses. Um, So yeah, we traveled. I really hope airlines, by the way, like even outside of Corona and stuff, really start like respecting it because there's a different, like, there's like a number of things. Like people can be very, very nice. Like I understand customer service is difficult. I've been in positions as well, and to be on a flight with people for 9 to 18 hours and give them food and everything, it's really difficult. But like there should be a sense of like dignity among people. Like, don't you think? Like especially when they paid for being on a flight, you know?
And during a pandemic when everyone's stressed and tense about flying and
Yeah.
moving around.
I guess you give everyone
Mm,
excuses too. These people are at high risk because they're always traveling and stuff like that.
mm,
And not to discriminate, I find that the worst airlines I've ever been on are from the States, the U.S.,
okay.
America, Delta,
So we've lost another sponsor possibility there.
another country. Uh, I don't know. You've traveled a lot. Like, are there airlines that you enjoy, that you like to travel, that you look forward to? Are there airlines that you don't look forward to, or airports you don't like traveling through?
um, yeah, I kind of have to agree with you on the American stuff. There was one we flew Continental Airlines in the '90s, and I thought it was great because they gave Subway sandwiches and
That's amazing.
like really American stuff, like big chocolate chip
Oh, totally.
cookies and a whole bunch of other stuff. So the food was pretty good.
Yeah.
One actually that stands out is we lived in New Zealand for a very short period of time,
Yeah.
and we flew once from the North Highland to the South Highland on Air New Zealand.
Oh,
It's not a very long flight, but the food was insane. It was just economy.
yeah.
It was like smoked salmon,
Ooh.
bagel, cream cheese, just like something that you could get at a really nice place in, Montreal bagel place.
Yeah.
I was like, this is not real. How is this possible? What's the scam here? Um, Air Canada, I think is sorry, we're gonna lose another sponsor. Air Canada's crap. They haven't changed. They
Totally.
haven't changed their food in like since the
Yeah.
'80s, maybe.
Yeah.
Because what I appreciate with some of the European carriers and the
Totally.
Asian ones is
Yeah.
there's like it's a national carrier. So like Air
Yeah.
Canada is the national carrier. You'd think you'd get something that's tied into the country. I know Canadian cuisine is not really a thing,
Yeah.
but
Agreed.
it can be. There's certain things that you could do.
Yeah.
Like the KLM is very good about it. Like you'll get Dutch cheese
Oh.
and the milk and all the dairy stuff and
Yeah.
these little Dutch cookies that are famous. So you get like promoting the country, which is a good thing to do. I don't get
Ex-
any sense of Canada really when I'm flying Air Canada. I just think, well, their stewardesses are a bit, what's the correct term these days? Stewards,
Yeah.
hostesses.
Hostesses.
They're nice, maybe more polite and friendly than most, but the food is horrendous.
I remember, so my dad is a big traveler for work and he loves airplanes. So growing up, we're all about air travel. We'd always be like, oh, that was a good landing. Oh, that takeoff wasn't great. Like, we always get stuff just because we have the
Take notes,
experience.
yeah.
Take notes. You nailed it right on the coffin, by the way. European, Middle Eastern, and Asian airlines, their customer service and experience in the planes, usually with food and the way things look and your amenities, are really great in comparison to North America. The food, I sometimes I go on certain airlines and I look forward to the food because I know how good it's going to be because like they make an effort for it.
Hmm.
Uh, um, Air Canada, Canadian Airlines is. I'm sorry, there was a time growing up that there used to be Canadian Airlines. Remember there was like a blue and red logo or something like that. There was
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Air Canada, WestJet. There was a couple other ones that went bankrupt a couple years ago, 10 years back, and stuff. We used to have more
yeah, yeah.
competition, but now we technically have two airlines. They match on prices all the time, so I think they're in cahoots on that. I find that air travel in Canada is insanely expensive. To go from point to point A to point B, where it's cheaper in other places in the world. In Europe, I think they really do a great job of making air travel affordable. In Canada, if I wanted to come visit you in Ottawa when you were there, it cost me 500 Canadian dollars. Which is a
It's
lot of
insane.
money
I
for a.
mean,
Mhm.
yeah, when my cousin, she was working in New York for a bit, and she thought, oh, it's a good excuse to go visit the family in Ottawa.
Yeah,
And she just figured it was quite similar to what it's like in the UK, Europe. If you take
yeah,
a weekend trip, and she was shocked. Like
yeah,
New York to Ottawa, in my opinion, should be a pretty frequent thing.
totally.
Anything along like it's pretty populated. There's no reason why they shouldn't have EasyJet option. There wasn't that. It was like you said, $500, $600 to go.
It's
So unless
ridiculous.
you're doing like someone's paying for you, there's no way you're gonna pull that off. And I understand like pre-pandemic, it was a bit out of hand, like with
Yeah,
EasyJet and Ryanair.
yeah,
Like maybe it's a bit too ridiculous to buy like a $6, 20
sure.
euro flight. Like doesn't take in the impact of destroying the planet.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's a balance as with most things.
Balance. I think, as in most things in life, I'm not an unreasonable person. Neither are you. I would, if you told me that like a $6 flight would have to be $50 just to offset the environment and carbon footprint, I'd say sure, that makes sense to me. But like, you can't go from one city to another in the same country for some like crazy ridiculous amount when you're trying to encourage travel and economy and growth. That's ridiculous. And so I think these Canadian airlines companies are really like they have a monopoly, and they're really taking advantage of everyday people. That's why, like, one of the things I as much as I love Canada, I think Canadian travel is not really well built in comparison to even other places around the world, including third world countries, which I think do a better job of it, by the way, because you got to make it
Mm.
affordable and you got to encourage tourism. And and one of the ways we do that is flight prices, right? Not everyone needs to fly business class. I don't even mind, I don't fly it. But if you made it more attractive, I'd fly more, right? And I'd spend more money, and I'd do more of it. But one of the reasons I don't travel in country a lot is because of flight prices. I just think it's not worth it. I think even if you go like Toronto and Ottawa and Montreal, a little bit more central to the world and to Canada, so you have more options. But even if I go from Vancouver to Alberta or Calgary, it's like $300, 200, $300, and that's just the province right next door.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of an interesting point you raised because maybe instead of bailing out these airlines every 10 years because they go bankrupt for whatever reason, the
Yeah,
Canadian government should have like a standing thing where they, contribute to um, people being able to fly who otherwise wouldn't be able to afford to, or to make it like a national thing.
absolutely.
And it's a big thing in the Middle East and in Asia to have like a national carrier, which is like almost fully funded by the government.
Yeah,
And I wouldn't want to go that far because clearly they got tons of oil money to dump into this stuff, and
yeah.
like that's not really fair competition. But yeah, I agree. I think it's really good for the country. It's so big and it's so sparsely populated that to encourage a bond between cities and towns, have
Totally.
at least that going because the train
I agree.
network isn't really helping.
Of course. And I mean, I know one of the things we have is like our country is so big. It's hard geographically. Like, I mean, if you flew from one side of our country to the other, it would take you the entire day, pretty much, with time difference and this and that. But like there needs to be a better network put in place and better infrastructure, not only for foreigners coming to our country, but for nationals as well, to see this beautiful country, not to lose like an entire paycheck on one ticket, to see family, and to make it easier. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm glad we agree.
yeah. So Canada, do that thing, Mr. Trudeau. I know you're a regular listener. You're one of our 34 YouTube listeners.
Yeah, from
That's
the good old days. So yeah,
right.
we landed. Pretty much, I had two major problems, but we thankfully got through it. We landed, and in my mind, I was like, we need to get to these cats. They've been through transit. We haven't seen them in like 19 hours. I hope they're okay. I
Mm,
mean, they're cats. They can't explain what they're going through. So this is so stupid of me. I went through customs and declaration, and now it's a computerized system. I don't know if you
uh-huh.
know or not. You don't really have to talk to anybody. So you put your passports in. Are you
Oh,
carrying
thank
this,
God.
this, this, this? So I put mine in, and then my wife's in. She's a Canadian PR, but the passport works. It's all good. And then they ask you all these questions, and then there's also an option that like you can just select no for everything. All of it's like, are you carrying more than $10,000? Are you carrying
Yeah, yeah.
firearms? Are you carrying? This is my mistake. Are you carrying live animals? Are you carrying any food? I never select food, by the way, because even if I have some sweets or some stuff like that, it's not like meat and like kiwis and
Yeah,
whatever. You know
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? It's small. And me, I just clicked no for everything, but I shouldn't have. I should have said yes.
Oh
I am
no,
carrying live
another
animals.
felony.
2 countries in less than one day. That must be a record. So I get my declaration piece of paper. I go through. We're good. We pass. My wife and I. We get to our luggage. I'm getting our luggage, but keeping an eye on the special baggage because the cats are coming out. They told me that, listen,
Yeah.
your cats will come out at the very end. So I get all my baggage and I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. Oh my gosh, even thinking about this gives me anxiety. My cats come out. First comes Bella, not this one, the one,
Mhm.
the other one, and she's in her cage moving around. The second one is Charlie, and he's not moving, right? And I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, worst case situation, he died on the flight. He couldn't survive it. I'm like, Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. He doesn't move. He doesn't move. He doesn't move. I'm pushing him with my hand, and he's cold and hard, which is what it's like rigor mortis,
Oh my, rigor mortis.
rigor mortis. And I'm freaking out. I tell my wife he's not moving. My wife starts crying. I'm like, I rip open the zip ties on the cage and I bring out, and this idiot cat, he's awake. He's just hiding under his blanket, like staying still. And then he looks at me. He's like, "Yeah, what's up?" Like, like. So, I guess what had happened was that he had both cats. What happened? Bella didn't do it. Oh no, or Charlie. They pee on themselves, which is very normal when you cat travel because they're holding it for so long and there's no litter. And so I guess I forgot one of our cats did it, one didn't. But he, I guess, was so cold from the pee and the travel that I guess he was trying to hide under the blanket to stay warm, right? And I last night I was lying in bed thinking about the situation again, and it just gave me anxiety. This cat could have died, on this plane, and he really just was hard because we had a cat once who we were kind of we got for a day or two, and it died, and it was sick already. It wasn't because of us. He
Oh
had
no.
I forgot what the thing was. He died, and when he died within minutes in the car ride. We were giving him back to his owners, and he died in the car. And I don't know if you've seen a dead animal or not, but they stiffen up,
Uh,
they go hard
uh-huh.
and cold. So, oh my gosh, Dave, I thought this cat died and I was freaking out. And it's like a kid to me. And and I was ready to pretty much get arrested at the airport because I was going to freak out on everyone. But
Wow.
thankfully he was okay. And then, so what I had to do was now I had to go through customs and declare them as animals, right? Or at least get them, I had the health passports. So I go to the first Agriculture Canada office and they're closing. And I said to one of the guards, the CBSA people, I'm sorry, we have animals. What do we do? And this is where I have problems with guards. He didn't even look at me. I could tell he was 20 or 21 or 22 years old. He was just walking away and he said, just go to the other office. And I wanted to tell him, like, listen, man, have the decency, at least stop, look at me and tell me that instead of arguing, right? Instead of just like this superiority complex. But of course,
Mm.
I didn't want to argue and I was tired. And by the way, listeners, you should never argue with authorities. They have the power in this position. Even though this is a democracy and you have your rights and blah blah blah, like, it's really like they really like take it to their heads. So this is how stupid I was. I didn't declare it, and I was going through the final declaration, and the lady, even they didn't see our cats in our cages because it was sort of covered. We had our luggage, our thing, jackets were kind of covering them, and it wasn't intentional. It was just how I did it. And the lady said, "Oh yeah, just exit through there," and I should have just exited, right? But what I said was, "Oh no, but we have cats," and they said, "Oh, then go in here," right? So I go in there,
Oh
I give
no.
him a declaration form. I'm like, we have cats. And the guy goes, but you didn't declare them on the paper. And I said, what? And he said, when you went through the machine, you should have declared live cats. And then that's when it hit me that I should have selected live cats, not no to all, right? And I'm like, I am
Uh-oh.
so sorry. I'm like, we had been on this long flight. I'm exhausted. We hadn't seen the cats. We were just trying to get. He's like, yeah, okay, no problem. Have a seat. We will process the documentation for the cats. Because it's like food. If you bring food in and stuff like that, you have to show them. So then this we had this lady, again, 21 years old, who kind of processed us, and she's like, she said, like, it's okay, I'll let you go, but if you don't declare these things, it's like a $1,300 fine or something like that. It's like against the law. And she said, like, are you bringing any food in? And at that point I'm like, yeah, I have some baklava because I brought baklava
Oh
from my mom
no.
and sister. And she's like, that's a pastry, right? I'm like, yeah. And she's like, do you have any other food? And my wife is like, I have some Moroccan sweets. They're like, okay, next time please declare these things or else it's a fine, right? I'm like, again, I'm so sorry, we have these, thankfully she didn't give us a hard time. We paid all our you have to pay a little bit of a fee for the cats to come in. It was like $37. It's fine. I got everything. I got the thing. We just as I was leaving, the last CBS guy, he was maybe 23, maybe he's a year older than everyone else. He was like, he heard me sniffle in my thing, and it's because I'd been wearing a mask for like 26 hours pretty much. And he goes,
Mm.
do you feel okay? And I knew exactly why he asked that question, right? It was like COVID related. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just, something went in my nose. That's why, right? Like, I just try to, So then thankfully, that was the end of our nightmare. We got all our cats, all our luggage, all our things. My sister was at the airport. We put the cats into the car for her. Uh, it's okay. So he's like, he's annoying.
Oh.
We got our luggage into the thing. We got home. And my final little thing was I couldn't find my passport when I got home. I'm like, what happened? Did we leave it there? Because I was just in a rush. Thankfully, it was just in a side pocket, right? So
Mm.
that's my journey home. And so It really was stressful, but I mean, it wasn't like a travel. It was just coming home. And so when you move from place to place, it happened to us before. It's really stressful, especially if you have kids, animals, like things that you have to go all this logistical stuff, all your crap, right? Like moving from place to place. So I'm never doing this again. Like I'm not going to another
You're never
country.
leaving.
I'm never leaving. But like I wanted to like just kind of I know we're almost running out of time, but like one thing I told you at the beginning was anywhere I go around the world, I find that the people that they use for security, whatever nationalities, CBSA, whatever you call it, they always seem to be so derogatory and rude. Like I've never met nice people. And I understand that there needs to be a sense of like power, like a power dynamic because this is international
Mm.
border. But like, do they have to be that big of assholes to everyone? Like, they're not nice at all. And I totally, by the way, I was watching, especially here when we landed, they totally stereotyped white people versus non-white people, and I could definitely
Mm.
tell because I used to work in this field a little bit, and I've done human rights work and stuff like that. So they're little like pinpointers. They totally stopped everyone, and they stopped me too. No problem. I answered their questions. I let go. The kid behind me was a white 15-year-old kid, and he goes, "Hi," and they go, right through. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's total crap because I don't know if you've traveled or not, but nowadays I guess I don't know if it's nowadays they have security people right as you exit the plane. You not only at the borders at the customs, they have it like right as you exit, especially when you're coming into Canada. I don't know if you found that or not. We had to go through security
Mm.
in Frankfurt when we landed, in Frankfurt when we left, and in Canada when we landed, all related to Canadian security. And I had it in Hong Kong.
Wow, 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 wow.
I had it in Hong Kong, and the way and the questions they ask seem very, very normal, like where you're going, where do you live, and stuff like that. But the way they look at you and the way that they're really asking questions and the tone, I find it to be very, very rude and disrespectful. Like I don't know what your experiences are, but I don't find it to be very polite at all. I don't know.
Yeah, I just try and get through it
Yeah,
because I am cranky and tired most of the time, and I
yeah,
have maybe a slight tendency for snark and talking
yeah.
back.
You and me
Um,
both.
yeah, but or just trying to crack a joke that maybe is the wrong time.
Yeah.
And this is not a place to make jokes, so
Uh,
I've just learned to just shut up. But if they really get rude or if they really get pushy, then I'll, you know, stand my ground.
yeah,
Thankfully, I haven't had to encounter too many jackasses.
yeah,
But yeah, it was crazy. I was thinking about again this trip to Nigeria I had, and it was London to Lagos, and then Lagos to London on the way
yeah,
back,
yeah,
same journey. Um, but like when I was going from uh, the return journey from Lagos to London, it was kind of ridiculous to see the different standards. Because Nigeria's the Lagos airport is kind of notorious for corruption and some bribery, and
yeah,
there was a crackdown when the new president was elected, so it wasn't that bad when I was there.
yeah,
Um, they're kind of like go through your luggage and your bags, and they're just kind of like poking through it. They're like,
yeah, yeah.
"Yeah, sure." That
Whatever.
was the
Yeah,
security. I'm like, "Okay, well, this is kind of sketchy."
yeah,
And then when it was a British Airways flight, and you arrive in London, and it's
yeah,
crazy. The Brits must be like, "Okay, we don't trust any of the security protocols in Nigeria." They had like
yeah,
German shepherds. They
yeah,
had like the top airport security people, like right as soon as you get off the plane, and
yeah.
the people, a lot of like um, I don't know, people who are not used to having dogs as pets seeing a German Shepherd, and they were
Scares them
terrified. And these people,
totally.
the Brits knew it because they were doing it as part intimidation
Yeah,
factor, and then
it's
part
horrible.
like security measures. So there is a certain amount of this
I think
situation.
oh sorry. I think global security measures are totally intentional. People who work in national security, global security, they totally understand what they're doing. So whatever tactics they're taking, and they totally discriminate and they totally stereotype. I know in Western countries you can't openly do it, so they do it unintentionally. And like one thing I know I was so I have this problem just like you. I make snarky comments from time to time, but another thing I do is I try to analyze like everything in my environment because I pretty much just don't trust anything. But like CBSA, by the way, if you notice, they've started to add more minority employees, right?
Mm,
So you got the Chinese one, the Indian people, and like African, Canadian, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think they're trying to show themselves to be more multicultural. But the issue is, even those people treat you like crap too. So like, I mean, it's not that you shouldn't treat people differently because of their ethnicity, but like you should not also. I'm sure when they go through their training, there's a whole section on intimidation or at least showing intimidation. You know what I mean? And I
mm.
just think there can be a balance. That's a good word for this episode. episode, between getting your job done, keeping national security, but also having a sense of respect and decency for just general human beings. Because like you got to remember, when you're on a flight, you may have traveled up to like 16 or 18 hours, you might not have slept, you're smelly, you're just frustrated, you want to get to your house, your mind is not thinking straight, you know what I mean? Honestly, I feel that the majority of mistakes made by people like myself who not clearing the declaration or the scissors is just due to kind of like unintentionalness, you know what I mean? That's not a
Oh
word, I know,
man,
but
I just thought of this one. Sorry to interrupt.
no,
There,
please.
on the subject of tired and not really knowing what's going on,
Yeah.
I think it was when I was the first time when I had to do this electronic
Oh,
CBSA form,
yeah.
and I was coming back. I think it was Amsterdam, Toronto, arriving in Toronto,
Yeah.
and it's a kind of a messy airport. It's confusing layout and stuff, and the way they had these
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
uh, electronic booths where you fill in the thing. Part of it is I think I had to put in my passport for some
Yeah.
reason, or maybe I just put my passport down,
Yeah.
and I moved on. It was
You
like you
forgot.
go on down some tunnel, and I left my passport there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then I didn't even think about it. I was just so groggy and tired. I do
Yeah.
the pat down. I was like, oh man, I left it
Where
there, and there was a huge lineup of people behind me.
oh, no
For
way.
sure, someone could have like, but then people were nice. They're like, someone was just wandering down the hallway with the passport, and they found me. But I was like,
Oh,
what an idiot! I just
no,
walked
but
off with my most important document.
you can't put like, I don't know. I think it's like behavior specialists or people who look at human behavior. Like being in an airport and traveling is not a normal experience. You know what I mean? There's so many factors that take away from the default status of being in right mind of state and getting things done because you're moving from country to country. You may not know the language. You know, you might be experiencing something that you've never done before. And on top of that, you have like other passengers who are going through the same thing. Like really, your mind is not working. I also left my passport in one of those those like Hudson's or the places you buy magazines and stuff like that when I was a
Yeah.
kid. And my dad was with me and he saw me leave it and he picked it up and he held it like this is what my dad does. He held it with him and he then like a 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, he's like, "Oh, do you have your passport on you?" You
Oh,
know? And then
played a
I was like,
joke.
no, and I started planning, I'm freaking out, and he's like, always hold on to it. You know, like it was like a teaching moment, right? And since
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I've been like OCD about it. But like I understand things like this happen and stuff. But what I don't, most travelers were also customers, were paying and if I had paid $600 to spend a night in a hotel, I would want good experience and a good service. So why can't we expect that from airlines and airports too? I don't think it needs to be to the level of like red carpets and Benzes and like people escorting you onto your planes. But the whole system should be improved a little bit. You know what I mean? From the moment you land, like I dread traveling now. I like getting to the destination, but the process for me is really just not appealing. But from the moment you get into a plane to the moment you're waiting like 40 minutes to check in to where you drop your luggage and they're like, I'm sorry, it's 1 kg overweight. That's $400. You know what I mean? Like to when you go through an international border and someone's like looking at you and they like stamp the thing and then, take your mask off, look at the camera, fingerprints. Like, you know what I
Mm,
mean? Like security where they like, I'm sorry, you need extra pat downs. Take all liquids over 100 milliliters out. It's like, can I not blow up a plane, quote unquote, with liquids under 100 Like I would never do it, but you know what I mean? Like the logic of none of this makes sense. So like yeah, like the scissor incident. Yeah, I'm sorry I had him on him, but if my scissors were any smaller, would they be any less of a danger? I can still do what I have to do. You know what I mean? Or that you or I'm not saying people listen. You know what I'm trying to say? The metallic forks and knives you give me. Like let's just use some logic and try to make it better for people. Like sometimes planes arrive late and you have to make it to the another other terminal within a certain time, and no
mm.
one's there to help you. You're just running through an airport like a like a crazy person, right? And so I remember
Yeah.
like I went through Raleigh with in North Carolina. One airlines came late. I literally was the last person on my plane, and I was still in line. I had like 20 minutes to get to the gate, and I had this huge line. And I remember telling the guy like, "Listen, I'm going to miss my flight." He's like, "It's okay. You just get another like you can just book another one, right?" And I was like, "What the hell, man? Like like I'm not from this country, and I have places to go and things to do and people to see." Thankfully, I was rushing, and once I got to the plane, I was out of breath. And lady's like, "It's okay. You made it. Don't worry. Take a breath." You know what I mean? Like at least be decent about it. Sorry, my cat. About it. So I feel like air travel, I don't know, I can't speak for other types of travel. Really, there's room for improvement if there was an intention to improve it. I don't know if you agree or not, but I think most people look at the bottom line plus the security implemented by factors outside of their control plus just trying to do the logistics of all this. But like if Amazon can get packages to you on the same day with drones, like at least we can have like a bunch of people sitting around thinking about how can we make flights more affordable, how can we make them better experiences. One of my pet peeves in lives is when companies ask you for feedback, because I know they don't give a shit, right? You
I
know,
don't
but why
care.
you?
It's
Yeah,
just a token measure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, please rate our service, or please do this, or please do that. And I never do it anymore because it's like, really, like, your service is crap, but are you gonna really listen to anything I told you? You know, unless you get to a point of like, like a certain class or elitism, or you're someone, then you might have a voice. But like, but generally speaking, us everyday folk, really, like, the real situation is like they just don't care. You know what I mean? And like, that's just it. That's just the reality. But I hope there's a sense of improvement, especially when it comes to security. You don't need to scare people or intimidate them. You don't need to humiliate them. I had to do the, the, what do you call it? Like when you put your hands
the,
up, but
the,
it's a
the 360 scan.
360,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And so like, I'm not planning to travel anytime soon. I hadn't traveled in a year since this last trip, since December last year on a plane. I used to love air travel. Now I hate it. But that's my experience. I hope people listen, people comment. I think if the masses revolt, revolution, we might be able to change it. But
But just to play devil's advocate, some people are just
please,
assholes too. Like some of the
that's true.
passengers are,
That's
are
true.
complete idiots
Pricks.
as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
I've seen
Totally,
I've
totally.
seen a lot of those. Um,
Totally,
yeah,
totally. 100%.
another quick Nigeria story. Um, so this is London to Lagos, and I was in business class, and I was like, "This is
Oh,
nice." But the whole experience was a bit soured by this lady who was sitting next to me, and she was on her phone
yeah,
playing like some Tetris game or something,
yeah.
Animal Crossing. I don't know what they're called, and they're saying, "Please, like, put your phone away,
Yeah, yeah.
turn off
For
everything,"
takeoff.
and then they specifically targeted her. She wasn't doing it. She was like messaging people, calling,
Yeah,
and the stewardess said, "Ma'am, you got to put that away."
yeah,
And she's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah," and whatever. She kept playing, and then like the chief um, steward came
yeah,
over
yeah,
and was like, "This is Heathrow Airport. We only
yeah,
have like a 30-second window to take off, and
yeah,
you're the reason why we're gonna miss the thing. You have
yeah,
to go off." And she's like, What are you doing that for?" I was
yeah.
like, "Are you crazy? Just get off your
Yeah.
phone."
Yeah. Well,
Um,
like, if I was the owner of an airline, by the way, airlines, I don't know if people know this and stuff, the profit margins on tickets are very slim. Airlines don't make
yeah,
tons of
yeah,
money.
it's bad.
So they need to balance profits versus customer satisfaction versus logistics and getting off on time. Like you said, some airports, you're on a certain time zone, right? Time restriction.
Mm.
If you don't get in within this time, you can't do this. So I understand, but at the same time, like I said, there needs to be a balance between customers understanding this and trying to do the rules are there for a reason, but the people who implementing them just also understanding the view of the customers as well, like, right? So like, I totally understand. I hate when you pay so much for an experience and it's soured not only by that company but and or by another customer whose actions or behaviors are influencing yours. So like, you paid, like, your company paid all this money for you to go to Nigeria, and you're like chilling out in business class, but the lady next to you is causing an issue. And then, like, it's becoming a problem too. And I'm sure if you said something, she'd freak out on you, and you have to spend
Oh
5 hours,
yeah.
right, on this flight with this lady. So it's like, I don't know. I just feel like all these problems, if people really sat around and we had a think group about it, like, really we could get better ways to do things. I'm not asking for solutions. I'm just asking for improvements. We should also always strive, you know what I mean? If we can send Tesla cars to space, and if we can go to the bottom of the water, and if we can get, whatever you order on Amazon, like your flea medicine for your cat by a drone in the same day, we could definitely try to improve the human experience on traveling, right?
What about treating us like cats? If we were just like tranquilized and just like sedated for the whole
just
flight,
just give
and
me
then
an
there's
ambient.
no passenger complaints,
Yeah.
they can cut costs on safety measures
Food.
and
Yeah.
hosts and
Yeah.
whatever, and just have everyone like pass out for the duration of the flight, and then
Mhm.
they revive. Like my dad is he's an anesthetist, so possibly everyone could be slightly gassed,
Ah.
and
So
then
pretty much,
no
yeah,
food,
yeah.
no drink, the
No
sleep for
washrooms.
everyone gets to go to sleep for 8 hours
Yeah.
and wake
Yeah.
up refreshed.
Well,
So
that's,
that's an option.
we'll get your dad on next time. We'll see if we can, like, if airlines can connect some type of amnesia like medicine or some type of sleeping stuff in gas form. When you get on, you just take it, and then when you get on, you wake up. I don't take medication anyway, sleeping pills and stuff. But like, if I could sleep a couple hours on a plane, I totally would do it. But I'm just a little like a sketchy of medications. But uh, but we'll take it there. And the last thing I'll end on before we end up is, like, this is a question that I've answered. Why is it that public restrooms on planes or any place in the world always get trashed within the first 20 minutes of flight?
Horrible.
Do people not understand how washrooms work? It is not so complicated. I thought
People
this was
aren't
a
potty trained. This
global.
is what I realized.
It is a global pandemic that we have going on here. It's so gross, man. Like if you're not the first one on a plane, and even then, it's sometimes gross too. If you're not the first one on a plane and you have like hygienic, like phobias, or if you're just kind of like a person, like you just pretty much have to hold anything you're doing for the duration of the flight. It is so disgusting, man. So gross. It frustrates me so much. People just like consideration, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely a pain point that needs to be addressed somehow. But I don't know how you get around that one. Bodily functions.
Well,
I
the
just
amnesia. I
think,
like your idea, actually. I'm not joking. I think it's not a bad idea.
yeah, people could just fall asleep in their own urine and wake up hard and cold and be poked at when they arrive.
Well, I think we'll have to market it a little better, but the general
all fresh and ready to go for their business meeting the next morning.
the general principles of thing. I don't know. By the way, I don't know on your trip to Italy if they fed you or not, but our food was gross. But but that's okay. Like I don't think that's an essential part of the travel nowadays. But whatever. Like at least we're home, we're safe, we're healthy. Everyone's in one piece. So and then of
So I was
course you
going to
get.
say to conclude, I'm very happy that you have made it back to
Thank you
Canada
so
in one
much.
piece. Your cats
Thank you
are
so much.
alive
Thank you so much. Thank you so
and
much. And I
everyone's healthy.
healthy. I'm happy. My parent my I'll just do two quick plugs here. My sister was so nice, and she bought me these electric toothbrushes,
Ooh,
and they're super cool. Maybe this company wants to sponsor us.
please
Very well.
sponsor us. Fairy will
Well, it's
ring.
cool. Very
Oh,
well. P11. And then also I needed a new computer, so I pre-bought an iMac and I'm using it now, and it's so nice. Like, ooh,
whoa.
very nice. And it's a
Apple, please
Apple.
sponsor.
Whatever company this is,
Send us, yes, send
send
us products.
iMacs and
Oh,
stuff
wait,
like that.
wait, look, here we people, we have
Yeah.
Apple products everywhere.
Apple. I was actually gonna. So my Mac, there you go, there you go. My MacBook was giving me problems, and it's 2 months ago, and so I said when I get back to Canada, I'm gonna buy it. But because it's the holiday season, even if you pre-buy a MacBook, it's not available until like January or something. People are like buying them like crazy. So this was available, and I got it, and I really think it's the best decision I made. It's beautifully designed. I don't need a lap. I still have the other one I can use as a laptop. But Apple products, maybe I'll do an entire episode. Their user interface and user experience is phenomenal. Like you can charge me an arm and a leg next time. I'll pay for it. No problem. Because I know.
That's why it's the most valuable company.
Most welcome. Anyways, to everyone, thank you for listening. I hope you also have good experiences or bad. I mean, I hope you don't, of course, have bad experiences, but share your experiences. I hope generally your experiences are good. And yeah, Dave, it's weird. We're not in the same time bracket anymore. We were only a couple
Yeah, we're
hours.
gonna have to figure out an appropriate time
Yeah,
to
yeah.
run
Don't
these
worry.
podcasts.
Dave was really nice in adjusting with me today because of jet lag and this and that, but I'll adjust with Dave. We'll find something that's balanceable between both of us. And
Very
so,
nice.
well, good.
Well, good luck getting over all the jet lag, finishing the quarantine, and doing all
Thank
that
you.
fun stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank
Um,
you. And I
yeah,
hope you're safe, and I hope your holidays are. I mean, I think we'll have one more episode at least before the holidays, but I hope you adhere to the rules and that you guys are just okay. Generally, it's okay. Stay strong. Stay
thank you,
strong.
Val.
All right. To everyone minus Germany, USA, and Canada who will probably stop listening, have a good day.
Bye bye.